Hey, good morning. Happy Monday, everybody. May 12th. Seeing a little bit of a rally this morning. We're a little bit ahead of the market open. Futures opened bright last night. Let's take a look at a couple of things. I want to post, take a look at a couple of posts that I put out there for the subscribers, and then we'll take a look at some GameStop flow. GameStop saw a little 28 action. So April 30th, we're coming up on about 2 weeks. I put out here for the subscribers I was watching SoFi analyst price upgrade following today's sell-off. We'll see if the 200 SMA holds support. I was looking at 13, 14, or even the $15 calls for May 16th, which is this week expiry. May still be a play as SoFi bounced from the 1205 low today. Buy more time if you like the idea. And I just said want to see a put sell off and call premium increase. And then entered the SoFi 15 calls this week at 10. This was 2 weeks ago. Those had already moved. I think they moved up 30% overnight that first time. It was just something we talked about. I said, hey, watch SoFi. As we go to SoFi here, we talked about April 30th following earnings. We'll see if the upgrades, how price reacted, how volume reacted. And one thing I noticed there with the SoFi, we looked at some of those moving averages, which is something I rely on heavily. And we saw that when we put out the idea, we had a little bit of consolidation, a little bit of a move up, back over your 9 and 21 EMA. And then with this morning, the market's rally at 1408 with a high of 1417. So targeting there that next high of 1451, which was on April 29th. So we'll take a look to see how that actually plays out. But from that entry there of around the low of 1205, we're up to 14, so $2 a share. Not a bad idea. I know. I'm trying to throw you a bone when I can. And also last week, I alerted Tesla. Uh, we saw the activity come in on Thursday for the 70 million worth. Everybody saw it. 300 million worth, or pardon me, 70 million worth of $300 calls for June 6th had come in last Thursday. We noted that the open interest had significantly expanded then Friday with the update. So of that volume Thursday, 53,000, about 40,000 showed up new open interest. And so they were paying around 1,200, 1,264 a contract, and was actually alerted on Unusual Whales Thursday morning, shortly after the open, ahead of any type of move. And I had posted about those particular calls on the $300 calls for June 6th. Right there at the open, I alerted them at 1668. Now, Friday, let's see, my post was 1 minute after the open, and those calls moved up very quickly to 20. So they moved up from 1668 to 20. So up about $300 real quick, 350, over 20% on the premium, and then moved a little bit higher there. So we got up about 33% very quickly Friday morning with the $300 calls for June 6th. So if you followed, we got you in for about $500-600 bonus a contract. Well, with the market rallying this morning, let's pull up Tesla because these Tesla, even though they went in the money Friday, with the 302, what was the high? We'll go back to that. 307 on Friday was the high. So those did move pretty well on Friday. But today we'll pull on the regular or extended hour trading. We're at 321. So those are $21 in the money. Plus you'll get a little bit of extra for the theta on there. And we're right back here to one of my levels actually from November 15th. So if you followed, well, if you've been a subscriber since last year, this was one of our big post-election and pre-election proxy trades. We had targeted Tesla. We had targeted following the robo taxi event gap down. We had looked for our levels up there to all-time high. We looked for some opportunities, both buying and selling. So Tesla definitely presented some of those opportunities, and kind of interesting here in pre-market to see some of those levels coming back there November 15th. So I always like to see, I've talked many times before, many years about, I've always felt price has memory. It knows where it's been. It knows where it wants to go. Follows moving averages, follows essentially supply and demand, and essentially wherever Wall Street has, parked the buyers and sellers, on matching orders, essentially. But you can see, stocks move up, they move down, they go back to where they've been, they try to find new areas. But this move today, if it holds, granted we're in pre-market, pretty nice move up there with the rest of the market. Because let's go back, we'll look at GameStop flow here in just a second. But I believe the S&P was almost up 5% this morning as well. Yeah, 581. So from the 564 close, saw a high 582.92 this morning. So yeah, pretty large move there on the S&P. I remember President Trump had posted last week, good time to buy stocks. So that's twice he said, good time to buy stocks ahead of the move. So we'll have to see how these moves open up. But let's look at GameStop Friday. I know I had posted about it. A lot of people were getting excited. Let's go to the post. Yeah, so shout out if you made the, it's a $5 subscription. We got you $500 a contract on the Teslas and 50+% on SoFi, because the SoFi $13 calls are $1 plus in the money. So if we go back to Friday, we had posted about over 3 million on GameStop in the money calls. We saw the $20 calls for June. There was really juice in that net premium on Friday. We saw boom, boom, come right in. So we're going to take a look at that open interest. We're going to take a look at all of that. And one thing I talked about too, with that post on Friday, was that if you wanted to learn more about gamma exposure, how it applies to GameStop, I'd post that quick video. Go check that out, because this is exactly kind of what's happening now is what happened last year. As GameStop moved up higher, more of those calls that were out of the money became in the money, and it created just some upward pressure with the gamma. We've talked about this before, so it was kind of interesting to see that, because the net call premium surged on Friday to 4 million. So we'll take a look at that. Let's drill into it. We'll take a look at the chart as well. But net premium on the day Friday 4.9 mil, total premium 51 mil. Now we've talked historically how the premium has stacked up. That was actually a larger day. Friday was, let's see, I have to go back here. We haven't had a day like that since April 11th, so almost a month, and that was a $50 million total premium that day. About 5 million in net premium, with the net call premium right around 4.5 mil. So we're gonna break that down. We're gonna take a look at it. GameStop there, boom, Friday. Let's see. Let me turn off the extended hour data here. And that was the move. I had said earlier last week's video, I had said, hey, the stock moves down, watch your moving averages. 2647 was the 21. And what did we get? I had said, hey, if it goes down lower, watch this. Watch your 2579, your 2572, your 2525. And let's see, last week, the stock, 2566, 2589. So not all was lost. You got this nice cross here, the golden cross. Is it like the McDonald's arch? No, but it's a 50 SMA crossing over a 200 SMA. It's referred to as a golden cross. Typically is bullish in nature. You just want to see it, develop fully. Oh yeah, that was what we got on Friday. Let's see, 2773, still right up there within that earnings gap up, still consolidating well above all your moving averages. So not too bad. If you look at the stock this morning ahead of the market open, 2807 with a high of 2818. So going to test some of those 28 levels just like we talked about with that gamma. So let's take a look at where some of that volume was at on Friday. It's going to be mostly for the short dated calls that already expired, like the 27.5s, 28s, and 27s. 30s for this week showed up on there. But we'll take a look at some of this, and we'll take a look at the $20 calls. Take a look at where like the bulk of the money was actually spent. But if you want to pause or take a screenshot, you're welcome to. Highest volume that occurred on Friday. Let's see, 30s, 55s, 2850s, which are just right there out of the money, just slightly. So we'll take a look at that. 50s look like some sold off there, cross trade maybe for December. So let's take a look at that. We'll use unusual whales here. And we're going to break down those contracts by like where was the highest amount, where was the bulk of that premium spent on Friday. We'll take a look at it here. And we always sort it out by premium. Make sure on April 9th, or pardon me, May 9th here. All right, bulk of the premium there. $28 calls, May 16th. Let's take a look at that here. About $1 million premium on Friday. 17,000 volume, about 5,500 in new open interest. So not real clean in that regard. Mix again of buyers and sellers. You can see ask volume about 7,800, bid volume about 71. So again, mixed buyers and sellers. Some felt GameStop might close above 28, so they bought calls. Some felt it might close below 28, so they sold calls because they moved. It let's see, about 45 up to about 80. So they almost doubled on Friday. Not bad. Not bad at all on a short dated for this week, you know. Let's see, those 27s and 26s. All right, here, let's take a look at those. I want to find those $20 calls as well. Let's make sure we're sorted out here. I believe we are. Just want to be sorted by largest premium there, so we can take a look. So I try to look for things over the 500,000 or higher. So we're gonna manually go look back at the $20 calls here. See 200,000 premium on the 25s for January. 20 for October in the money. The 20s last week, we saw a little bit of those on Friday. Yeah, the premium light there in that regard. 32s May 23rd, but yeah, just some selling there. So it looked like somebody sold some $30 puts for for December. 420 of those on volume on Friday, about half a mil. In premium, open interest carried over, so more than likely sold, as the size of the transaction here was larger than the open interest at the time. So more than likely suggests sold to open. Trader feels GameStop may move up in that regard, and they want to keep that premium. Let's see. I mean, they are it's 30, just right there in the money, but they could shift out of the money, so we'll see there. About a half a million on there, but let's pull up those. We'll pull up the 20s for June. It's just weird not seeing all that premium. We posted on that Friday, right? Yeah. Let's take a look at that. All right, those were on the 20s for June. 3 mil in premium, and I'm not seeing that in the top. All right, so we're gonna do it the manual way. We're gonna look it up manually. That's just weird. Usually it would just jump right out there. So I had to make sure my dates were right. Like, was I looking at Friday's date? I know that I was. Let's see here. It's for the June expiry for the 20s. We'll pull that up here and take a look at it. There we go. Okay, so Friday. I'm not sure why it didn't show up there on my scanner. I'm going to have to double check that. I might be filtering too much. Let's see here. And some of it is tagged multi-leg as well, so let's see what else is connected to it. See, about 6,000 total volume Friday, about 4.6 mil total premium. Now, 4,600 ask volume, 1,200 bid volume, but a good portion of that, nearly 4,000, carried over into new open interest today, suggesting those positions were opened in that regard. So let's take a look, see if we can see what the other side of this multi-leg trade was. And we can do that very quickly with unusual whales here. See, it wasn't on that side. Here's 1,000 just coming through. There was the block right there. 1,000, and they definitely paid over. The spot was 780. The ask at the time was 775. So more likely bought to open. Same here, bought to open as well. And you got to remember, if they paid 780, the stock's 2780. It's essentially like getting 20 the shares for the market price. So, but if you were concerned your average, or you thought the stock was going up, you wanted your shares at 20, you could do that. Get them at $20 a piece, if that's what you were trying to do. Let me look at another candle, because I see 55% multi, which just suggests that half of these transactions were connected to something else. Here we go. That's what I wanted to see. So we look at the volume. We see here the denotion of that it is being multi-leg. So even though they were bought here, let's see, some of these prices they're starting to skew below the ask. So let's look at the other side of some of these here. I'm going to go to one of the largest. We're going to see possible multi-leg here. Okay, so it looks like, so they sold the 20s for May. So it looks like it just rolled their 20s from May 23rd into June. So that could be why we didn't see the large increase in premium. So we'll go over to the May 23rd. So let's look total what happened there. It's always good to look at the full context as well. So you can see about 4.5 mil premium on Friday of the 20s. So yeah, they just rolled The 20s of May right into June. So even though we saw all that premium going in there, I hadn't actually looked at it Friday. I just looked, hey, well, all this premium and in the money calls. Kind of the same thing that we saw. I knew that I'd make a new video. We'd look at the open interest update, which is where we could gain the full story. Because, see, the 20s increase. We saw the open interest. So let's look at the 20s for May. See some of those increased as well. So a little bit, and that could have been contracts changing hands as well. So even though there was some buying and selling, that's not all of it. Some was selling, some was buying. Could be the same trader, could be multiple traders. Definitely not to be ignored. Let's look at the open interest updates for today. Our largest open interest changes this morning. Let's take a look here. Then I can get your most up to date information. All right, here's your biggest decreases to open interest on the 29 calls for May 30th, 23s for this week. I mean, just a little bit of decrease here to the open interest. Let's look at the increases on the other side. So your biggest were the 50s for December, 55s for May, 28s for May this week, 32s next week. So there's a little bit of increase there in the OI. But I believe those 50s for December was a big cross trade. No side, and it was typically a cross. We'll take a look at that. It was about $7 million. 6.6 million premium. Let's take a look at it here. I believe it was a cross because I usually filter out cross trades anyway. So it's part of a multi-leg, but not necessarily. Transaction was the execution of an electronic multi-leg stop auction order, which was stopped at a price and traded in a two-sided crossing mechanism that does not go through an exposure period. So such crossing mechanisms include, and not limited to, customer-customer cross. So this is just basically a cross trade occurs when a broker executes a match, buy and sell orders, same security across different accounts, different clients, and sends them through to an exchange. It's just messy. So trading back between other accounts, a combination of accounts, a combination of clients, a combination of market makers, and then sending it all back through as one order. So that's what we saw there. The volume was 7,400, no side, and then the open interest increased. So the position sits open in theory. Like I said, a cross trade. And let's see what else we can find from that here. See what other data I can get for you on it as well. 20s, also in combination with the 20s for December. Looks like, because they come through at the same time. Size similar in the 37, 74, both cross. And on the NASDAQ. Yeah, I mean, the share equivalency, 300,000, 400,000 shares. Let's look at the 20s, though. What's been going on there? Yeah, it's the same thing. So the open interest expanded there as well. So somebody's got some in the money, deep in the money going on, and a deep out of the money going on there. Not too deep in the money, but pretty good. About $8 worth of premium. So yeah, always good to go dial into that flow. You got to look at it. So yeah, good, interesting to know they essentially rolled some of those 20s from May into June. So basically into the May option expiry, into the June option expiry. So let's see here. I want to look at those 20s again on May. Yeah, that was the one. Okay, so some of it did show up. A little bit of open interest. So again, could have changed hands in that regard. 2,000 came through, and then the 1,000. So buyer to seller, seller to buyer, and then we went ahead and grabbed the 20s for June. So yeah, I mean, we'll watch it. We'll continue to watch the flow. That's what we do. Let's pull that back up here. We'll take a look at the gamma as well. Because now GameStop's at 28. Like I said, 28, 29. You know the drill. You know how this goes. You saw it last year. I don't need to tell you how this works. All you got to do is just be smart enough to grab, make sure you're not, don't panic down there at the bottom. Don't freak out and forget what you're doing at the top. Lock them profits, lock them on the way up. sell them into strength, watch your short dated out of the money. I mean, you guys are all smart. You know how this works. So I want to pull up that gamma here again. So we look there, that spot. I know, right there at 28. Oh, it's spicy there at 28. I know, a little bit more spice at 29 and 30. So, I mean, any other move above, it gets a little more expensive. The Basically, gamma exposure is long, 3 million shares. Every 1% price and change, about $24 million at a market maker or an option dealer going to have to put up to hedge against these positions, because as GameStop moves up, more of those calls go in the money, creating gamma pressure to the upside. Now, on the other side, if more calls are sold off, creates downside pressure. You can see some of that gamma come off the table, and then option dealers, market makers begin selling the common stock that they used to hedge those transactions, which then brings subsequent downside pressure. We've talked about this before. You've seen it before. But here you go. You can pause, take a screenshot for your spot gamma exposure in that regard. Take a look at that. Gamma still built up very nicely. Right there at that $28 level, which is where is the stock still 28? It's right there at 28 this morning. Still ahead of the open. Be at 27, 28, 29, 29.50, 30, strong. So the stock moves to 28.50, 29.30. Boom, you're going to introduce more FOMO, more call buying, more hedging of common shares. Could create more upside pressure. Just like inverse of that, you see a bunch of selling, you see some calls come off the table, you're going to see some downside pressure on the stock. Largest net gamma exposure with this week is because it's the May monthly option expiry. So even though it's a weekly call option, the 16th represents the May monthly. So that's why it's the larger net gamma. And then follow next week, and then built out into June, and slowly starting to build into July. So you're going to see that more building out into July and later months as we start advancing the calendar of May and June. So it's starting to get interesting. I mean, you've seen GameStop here before. You've seen it here last year with or without any posts from Roaring Kitty. The only thing that changed last year, we had Roaring Kitty posts, and we also had share offerings, So this year we've had the convertible note and the arbitrage related to that. No Kitty posts. So, I mean, yeah, the stock's still nice. I mean, we've talked about where it's been, where it sits. It's where it's been. I mean, this time last year it was like a $14 stock. So, I mean, it's cruising all above its EMAs, moving averages on the weekly, still strong on the weekly. I mean, in the middle of April last year, the stock was $10. It's 28. The only people that are mad are those that YOLO'd out of the money call options and got smoked, or those that might have tried a strategy they weren't familiar with and got their shares called away, or maybe they got assigned, or yeah, you bought the stock high. Back here last year, you got caught up. It happens. There's our ways to get around that, though. We talk about it through options and strategies, and I'm going to be making a video about AMC, and just, I think there's a lot of people buried in that stock long, and there's plenty of opportunity within the option chain to extract some revenue. So if that's something you want to hear about, let me know down in the replies. In fact, I may even share personal experience with AMC stock and just selling calls with that stock. I think it's valuable information. Stock's down, 80, 90% since its highs, so not really any longs in that stock from years ago. Could be positive. Sure, they might have averaged down, but I see plenty of people with 5, 10,000 shares that have never once deployed a covered call strategy on AMC. It's kind of concerning because there's been this consensus, with AMC that, options don't work with AMC, whatever. That's because there's been improper education. I'm not saying go squeeze the option chain on AMC and you'll get some action. What I'm saying is, with the right education, you may see some changes in the price on AMC. It's short interest peaking back up at 15%. If people understood options and how they worked, especially those that were long and thought about selling call options or put options as well. So yeah, if you want to hear more strategy about AMC and how you can make money, if you like, I don't mean this in a negative way, but if you're down or bagged on AMC, let me know. Send me a DM. Like, I would literally love to go over a few ideas, and it's up to you what you do with it. You can take it what you want. It's not a shill. It's just, I want to see people make more money and lose less. But yeah, that's what I got for you today. A nice, good video. I think I'm going to get all these available on YouTube as well. I know some people had asked about, if I, did private trading and things like that. And yeah, I do. And it's something I think we should talk about as well. So if that's something you think you're interested in, and you want to put your money where your mouth is, it's one of those where it's a group of very like-minded traders. For example, best analogy I can give you, you go to the circus and there'll be tigers and lions there and people will ride the tiger. You don't ever see a wolf being ridden, nor do you ever see a wolf at a circus. Exactly, because we don't play games over here. But yeah, I mean, I do a little sub thing for the subscribers, but I think people want more. They want more education. They want a deep dive into my portfolio, my daily trades, my book. I get it. And I'd be willing to show it for those that are willing to work. So I can't promise you results, but I can promise you if you commit time to the education I provide and the ideas and the strategies, we could definitely level up your money. We could definitely level up your money. I've been doing it. I've got DM messages. I've been helping people. I enjoy it. I enjoy seeing other people win or do better with their trades. So yeah, if you enjoyed the video, let me know down below. Send me a message. Reply to this. It is Monday. Let's see how it goes. But I hope you all have a fabulous day, and we're right back at it on the grind. And I'll be lurking on the internet, watching the flow, doing what I do. But like I said, check out those trades. Go back and look at some of that GameStop information. Go back and look at the Gamma. If you're interested in subscribing to X, do that too. Helps the page and puts together some ideas. I know a lot of people don't even see them, so I'm not sure. There's not a lot of subs, but there's a few that are paying to sub, but not much interaction. So maybe I'll just post to everybody. Yeah, because I feel bad, like sometimes, like putting out these bangers for people that I'm trading. Not like I want to hide them behind a paywall, just trying to, I don't know, try other stuff that people do. But yeah, you never know. So maybe we'll do that whole. I can't talk about it. I can't talk about it till it's there. I know. But it's called The Wolf Den, if anybody's interested. Yeah, I know. I can see it now, The Wolf Den. I know. Maybe I'll share the teaser clip today. The little advertising video I made. We'll see. We'll see. But you guys have a great day. And I'll see you in another video, another post on Wall Street, on the internet, on Main Street. We're just doing what we do. You have a fabulous day.